Warning, there will be some slight spoilers for Andor Season 2. Yeah, there, I said it. You can't complain. The Star Wars Andor series has shown us a great number of things that are deeper than what we have been shown of the Empire in the past, such as motivations for those involved in carrying out its orders. I believe this show will spark many a debate among university courses and bring about case studies for a very long time. If I were a college professor, I know I would use Andor as a learning tool, such as Cyril Karn as a case study. He would make a great lesson in psychology, but one big thing I would use Andor for is to teach the principles of the banality of evil, the idea that a regular individual can commit atrocious acts with minimal defense other than, I was just following orders. So that's what I want to talk about today. How different the Empire seems after the Andor series has concluded compared to how we viewed it as and its individuals in the past, and how the banality of evil pertains to those within the Empire, and how they differ from those in the rebellion. I'll use different Andor characters as subjects as well. Okay, let's see if this works. Hey, don't just sit there. Move your thumb to that little red subscribe button and press it. You enjoy my videos, so why not help this small channel out? I'm trying to get to 50,000 subscribers, and I can't do it without you. We're almost there. And it really does help me put out more content. It not only helps the algorithm, but every time I see the subscriber count go up, it motivates me to do more and do even better content. I love talking about Star Wars and would like to talk about it more frequently. So subscribe and show your love for what I do. And once I reach 50,000 subscribers, I will do a live stream where I will be doing drinks of my favorite bourbon. Thank you, my little pookies. I love you. There will be some speculation leading up to my point, speculating what different characters would use a defense if they were to stand trial, but it will all make sense in the end, I promise. Okay, before I get into the characters of Andor and their role in the idea of the banality of evil, I'll explain where the concept came from. Banality basically means dull or unoriginal. Hold on, don't leave yet. I'm not saying the Empire or its members in Andor or Andor itself are dull or unoriginal. Quite the contrary. But rather their reasons for committing horrible acts are unoriginal. Or rather their defense for it. The idea for the concept of the banality of evil came from Hannah Arendt, a Jewish philosopher and political thinker who fled Germany when the guy with the funny mustache took power. Side note. Did you know that German women found that guy irresistible? Seriously. Hitler. Irresistible. Let that sink in for a moment. Now we have men like Jason Momoa and Bradley Cooper. Back then, there was Hitler on the cover of 17 magazine sporting a Speedo. Anyways, Hannah Arendt reported on the trial of Adolf Eichmann, one of the orchestrators, the main one, of the Jewish question at the Wannsee meeting in January of 1942. She reported that his defense was unoriginal in his trial, that he was only following orders and the law of the time, that he shouldn't be held accountable for what he had done because of that. So she wrote The Banality of Evil. Okay, that's the abridged version. Now, back to Andor and the rest of Star Wars. In Season 1, we are introduced to a character called Jehol-Behaz, the commandant who oversaw the dam in Aldhani. He became the poster child for imperial occupation. While he was not directly hands-on with atrocities committed of the people of Aldhani, as the ranking officer, Behaz was responsible for what happened on his watch, and he also boasted about it regularly. But we were shown that he was an ordinary man beneath the uniform. He had a wife and a son, and his weight had caused heart problems that ultimately led to his demise. We even empathize with him very slightly, or at least with his family. But that's part of this idea of banality. An ordinary man who likely would have used the defense that he was just following orders and the law. In a normal circumstance, he may have been a chicken farmer like Heinrich Himmler. I'm sure most of you know who that was. Commandant Behaz was an ordinary man put into an unordinary position of power and utilized that power to gain worth within the government and laws of the time. And his unoriginal defense would have been, I was just following orders. Banality, plain and simple. But we don't see this all the time in Star Wars. In A New Hope, we were introduced to another high-ranking Imperial in the form of Governor Wilhuff Tarkin. While he was terrifying to those of us judging his actions, he was a fairly stock villain. The novel Tarkin goes a bit more into his backstory and why he was the way he was. Something about being left in a wild forest as a budding young man, made to live or die in kind of a rite of passage. It was a tradition for the males of Eriadu. Obviously, he survived. But this made him into a stern man and a cold leader. Grand Moff Tarkin would not have used the defense, I was only following orders, because he believed what he was doing was the best way to keep the galaxy under the thumb of the Empire. Victory would have been his reasoning. He wasn't following orders when he ordered the Death Star to be tested on Jedha, then again on Scarif in Rogue One. This was his idea to squash any opposition. Just plain evil. That's what I should have said. I should have just said he's plain evil. Darth Vader would have been another that wouldn't be considered among those of banality, although possibly under a different pretext. Darth Vader believed his empire, quote, would create long-lasting peace by tightening its grip and using force for compliance. Not just the force, but physical force. His defense in a trial would have been equally as boring as Tarkin's victory proposal, but I don't think Tarkin cared about peace. Otherwise, the Death Star wouldn't have even been a thing that he pushed for. Even Darth Vader didn't seem to care much for the Death Star in A New Hope. But the Empire in the original trilogy, as we saw it when it was released, was full of individuals like this. People that were just evil just because of evil. We got no motivations for their actions. But let's get back to Andor and the idea of banality of evil. We are given a slew of new characters in this show. Among them are those in the ISB, or Imperial Security Bureau, Dedra Meero, Leo Partagaz, Supervisor Hirt, and so on. Then there is the infamous Cyril Karn, just barely on the inside of the Imperial machine. These are the people charged with gathering the intel on the rebellion and organizing small strike forces to snuff out the rebellion's leaders and creators. These are the characters who are likely to use an unoriginal defense for their actions. Major Partagaz, I was upholding the laws in place, even though he knows his actions are evil, helping orchestrate the massacre of Gorman and the squashing of resistance on Ferrix. He also approved unconventional torture methods used by Dr. Gorst. Evil acts. Orders that should not have been given by him. It doesn't matter how much we empathize with him at the end of his life, he got what he deserved. And I don't think anyone is mourning the loss of an evil Imperial officer with an unoriginal defense. Dedra Meero, I was just following orders to facilitate peace, all the while creating chaos, uprooting and unending lives, committing evil acts on an otherwise peaceful planet, Ferrix. She created a situation where justice of her was thrown out the window in order for her to bring others to justice. The scale of Dedra Meero's atrocities do not match the scope of what she was trying to bring to justice on Ferrix. Then she helped murder many innocent people on Gorman just so the Empire could gain a resource for the Death Star. It's ironic that Dedra Meero ended up in prison on Narkina 5, working on parts for the Death Star when she was one to help gather the mineral to complete it. Sitting alone in her electrified cell, crying because she was just following orders. Banality. Cyril Karn is the only one out of all of these that I actually do slightly empathize with. He realized what was happening and knew it was wrong, and before he could change his mind, boom, he's shot in the head and dead. He didn't commit evil acts per se, not within his knowledge anyway. He only wanted to bring a murderer to justice in the beginning, and that's something that is notable. He just benefited from the Empire in the process. Still, he's a criminal, and he is just as guilty due to being complicit. Even though his reasons for doing it were to finally impress his mother, it is all banality. There are so many of these cases that the Star Wars Andor series has brought to light. The banality of evil doesn't mean to engage in evil per se, as long as you have an original defense. It means there is no real defense for what they've done. There is never a good reason to commit atrocities. I don't care what it is. It's all going to be banality. There is always reason to resist, though. And the Andor series explores this idea perfectly. There's only ever one or two people at the top of this kind of system. There are thousands below them carrying out the orders. If half of them would have said, "This isn't right," and stood up for truth, we would be having a different conversation. But there are always those in the ranks like Darth Vader, Grand Moff Wilhelm Tarkin, Reinhard Heydrich, and Adolf Eichmann that will carry out the orders because they don't care about right or wrong, only an end result coming to their favor. There's another type of banality of evil on a lesser level, and that is the idea of being complicit. Cyril Karn falls into this category, ignoring the atrocities so long as the individual is prospering, comfortable, or being left alone. The thought that it sucks for my neighbors, but at least they didn't come after me until they do come after me. Then the thought that any one of us can be the very evil we hate if given enough power and freedom. Average people like chicken farmers can go on to annihilate millions of people, and the defense that I was just following orders becomes so mundane. No, you had it in you all along. You were just given the freedom and power to exercise it. But what about vigilante justice? Still the same principle. We can say this person needs to pay for what they did by our own hands, but it doesn't grant us the right to carry it out, unless in heated combat, where your life depends on it, which Cyril Karn was. Then there should have been a trial, such as the Nuremberg trials. Dedra Moreau got justice and deserved more than the punishment she got, but I can think of more humane places she could have been placed instead of Narkina 5. So I am satisfied with this irony. I'm not a moral philosopher or anything. I can't say how I would act in any of these circumstances, neither from the giving nor receiving end. I like to think of myself as a good person who wouldn't do any of this, but I've never been given this type of power nor been through an apocalypse. I know I'd die before attempting to wipe out an entire people, though. I have a lot more videos planned for dissecting the Andor series. I'm going through and watching each episode from the beginning of Season 1 all the way through Rogue One to help show the deeper meanings in just about everything. You won't want to miss it. You're my buddy, and I will treat you as such. This is a place for our love of Star Wars. I don't dish out hate, and I don't pay for subscribers. So I am relying on you all to help me reach 50,000 subscribers. We are so close to that goal. I'm not asking to be the biggest Star Wars YouTube channel on the internet. I don't want a free ticket to Star Wars Celebration. I just want to talk about my love for the franchise more frequently than I am currently able to. So, help a small channel out and subscribe. Until the next time, may the Force be with you, unless you don't want to. In that case, may the old gods bless you with 1,000 sons to carry on your name.